So selecting the object, deselecting the object, and selecting the object or a small portion of the object, such as vertices, edges, faces, and so forth, are uh, integral part of the modeling. In fact, they take up probably half or more of the time that you're gonna spend using the software application. So it's very important that you get to the best, you get into using the best method for selecting, deselecting, and the object, and also the sub portion, small portion of the object. So in order to be able to do that, there's a tool called marking menus. Marking menus are menus that pop up at your cursor, very similar to Maya's hotbox when you press down the space bar. But in Alias Studio, the marking menus are triggered when you press down the Shift and Control key on your keyboard at the same time. So I use very particular fingers to press these down. What I recommend is I recommend assigning one finger to each of these keyboards and be consistent. Use it the same way. So what I recommend is this. For your Alt key, use your index finger. And for your Shift key, use your middle finger. And for your Control key, use your ring finger. So it will be Alt, index, Shift, middle, Control, ring finger. Now, alternatively, if you are used to use your pinky, I play guitar, so I use my left pinky all the time. So for me, I find it more comfortable to use the Alt, index, Shift, ring finger, and then Control, pinky. But that's just me. Most people don't find their pinky to be very strong or have dexterity. So Alt, index, Shift, middle, and Control ring is fine for most of you. So now I'm talking about this lavender color column here, the marking menu. So it's once again, it's pressing down on the Shift and Control key at the same time, holding it down, and then clicking on any of the mouse buttons, the left mouse button, middle mouse button, or the right mouse button. So switching back to Alias here. So like for example, if you want to pick an object, this is what you do. Hold down the Shift and Control key at the same time, and then click on your left mouse button. And when you do that, you get a pop-up menu that is composed of pick object, pick CV, pick curves, pick surface, pick nothing. Pick nothing sounds funny, but it's a very great function that you'll see in a minute. So if you want to pick an object, all you have to do is hold down the Shift Control key and then go downwards, click downwards on your left mouse button, and then you can pick any of these objects here. So if you, I'm clicking, left mouse clicking on the cylinder, and then I'm clicking again to deselect. So, and then I'm doing the same thing on the cylinder, and I'm doing the same thing on the cube. So now, so pick is a toggle. If you pick something once, it picks it. If you pick it again, it unpicks it. So that's one way to unpick it. But if you have a bunch of objects on screen, or even off the screen, let's say you have like 1,000 objects picked, then what you can do is you can say, hey, you know what? I want to unpick all of them. Then those are the cases where you can say pick nothing. And then you are assured that you don't have anything picked in your modeling window. And that's very important because just because something is off the screen and you don't see it doesn't mean that you don't have it picked. You can do things on your in your design that you can accidentally do by having it picked, and so forth. So that's why pick nothing is a surefire, very assured way to say, hey, I've got nothing picked. So that is pick object and pick nothing. And here that's the left mouse button, and then I have the cylinder with the CV points, the control vertices visible. So I'm going to use one of these. So if you do the pick CV, you can pick the CV points of any particular object, at a time. So I can pick some CV points here, and if I do a zoom in there by going Alt L, look at, that's in another one of these videos if you, look in the selections. So that's a very useful function. And then once again, I can do pick nothing. I can pick the entire object of the torus, and then do Alt L to get to the object level. Alt L, sorry about that. Alt L, yes. And then also, if I pick another object here, pick nothing, and then pick the cube, Alt L, that lets me focus in on this cube. And if I pick the cylinder as well as the cube, then I can do Alt L to focus in on both objects at the same time. And pick nothing and pick object to go focus back on the cylinder again. So, and then pick CV, pick some CVs here, Alt L to focus in on those CV points of on a particular part of the object. Pick nothing again, and if you don't have anything picked and do Alt L, it will frame up all the objects in the scene. So that's a very global view and so forth. So that is the marking menu that has to do with the pick selection, the left Control Alt plus left mouse button. And moving on, I will demonstrate the transformation of the object and displays the remainder of the mouse button for the marking menu. So left mouse button does all the various pick object, pick CV, pick nothing, the selection items here. And middle mouse button does move, rotate, scale, these transformation, moving the objects around, making it bigger, smaller, and rotating and so forth. So that is the middle mouse button. And then right mouse button has all these information window, XYZ information on the object, and shading the object, turning the shading on and off, toggling the grid on and off, and control points on and off. So those are the sort of like the visual display of the environment and on the object. So I'll get into more detail on the transformation and the display in another video, but that is the marking menu that pops up at your cursor tip anywhere you're on screen, and it's a very super helpful function. Now keep in mind that like you don't have to wait for the pop-up menu to be visible. You can just do the gesture and then it'll do the command. For example, if you know that pick object is always going downwards with your left mouse button, then you don't have to wait for this menu to pop up. You can just go bloop, and then pick something. And if you know that pick nothing is always upwards on your with your left mouse button, you can just go bloop, and then unpick it. So like here, pick object, pick the cylinder, pick nothing, pick object, pick the cone, pick nothing, pick a bunch of objects here, and then later you can just say pick nothing. So once again, you don't have to wait for the entire menu to pop up. You can just do that gesture, just the north, south, east, west, and you can just be productive in that regard.